Hey, to those of you on here, I am just getting set up right now, but we're going to be working on my portfolio today. I'm going to be kind of teaching myself as we go. So, kind of excited about it. It's going to be different than the last couple where I did like pre planned workshops. This is going to be a little bit more free flowing. So, I'm excited. I'm going to wait a couple more minutes, but we'll get started. I probably won't be able to finish today just because what I'm looking to do is relatively in depth. So I'll probably be on for like 2 hours and then maybe continue this at a different time or do it offline and write a tutorial or something. And I just saw the question in the chat, and I will be watching the Twitch chat as we go. So leave comments in there. That's the easiest place for me to look as we go. I don't have any community set up or anything like that, but if people are interested, I could set something like that up. It could be kind of fun. So let me know if that's something that you'd be interested in. I know a lot more people are doing that. Like Kent C. Dodds has like a Discord now and such. So I don't know if that's something that people want. Let me know. That's the first time I've kind of thought about it, though. Also, I just want to make sure that my audio is okay. I had some issues with it last week, and I think the settings are still in place that I changed to, but if they're not, please let me know, and I know how to change them now. So, again, thank you so much to Chris Enns for teaching me how to do that. But as we go, feel free to leave me questions either about the technologies that we're using or about building a portfolio in the chat. I'm totally here for both and my opinions on all sorts of portfolio things because building portfolios has kind of become one of the things that I really enjoy doing, and I've had some success with them getting some attention on the internet. So please feel free to add those in the chat as well, and I can answer those even though they're not necessarily on the technical side. I'm very much here for that. So the technologies that I want to use today are going to be Next.js, and then I'm going to deploy it to AWS Amplify. I think down the road I also want to add a Amplify API so that I don't have to keep updating my site manually. So I love the design of my portfolio. Right now it's alispit.tel, and I can put this in chat too in case you're interested. You can check it out. And I really like the way it looks. Like you can click on it and you can have different shapes that pop up and all that. But my big pain points with it are that it's hard to display everything on here. I want to have more for like my blog posts and YouTube videos and all the other things that I'm doing online. Like I want that featured better on here. And then my other pain point is that it's really hard to update. So right now this is just written in HTML with a little bit of CSS and JavaScript. And so whenever I want to add something to this or remove it, I have to write the HTML by hand, which I guess is not that much work by any means, but it just feels a little bit clunky and it's kind of a long process. So I really want to update it to something where it's easier to update. Maybe I just have to add something to a JSON object, or maybe it even updates automatically. So I also really wanted to learn Next.js. It's a technology that I'm really interested in and want to keep looking into more. So I'm going to be diving into that. I'm new to it, so you all in the chat might know more than I do, and I'd love to learn from you. I just have the kind of create a Next.js app tutorial up here, and I'm going to be following that in order to get set up, and then hopefully be writing my code from there. I'll put in the chat what's going on here. Oh, thank you so much to the person that said that they're a huge fan. That's awesome. It's really cool to hear. Oh, and I'm going to start recording too, because I just realized that that's not going on. Oh my goodness. Did things just get really blurry? Or is that just me? No, maybe not. Okay. Well, again, what I need to do is go ahead and probably first start off a branch. So I've got way too much going on right now. So I was updating the Ladybug podcast website before this, hence that. And then what's this? Oh, I'm updating We Learn Code in another terminal window, classic. And Giflify, which is the app that I did for my tutorial this week. I also have a bajillion tabs of that open. So I should probably get better about closing these things, but whatever. I'm going to go into my current portfolio. Let's see. So I have the spittel.github.io folder up right now. It is a private repo, but I'm not going to be using really anything from it, so don't worry too much about that. I made it private because people kept stealing my code for it, and I wanted it to be unique, so that's why it's a private repo, and I'm probably going to keep it that way. But I can probably put up a public repo with what I work on today. That's okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new branch on GitHub so that I can put my new code in that. Ooh, and I should make this bigger so that you all can see it. And I've got all these files in here already, so let me go ahead and delete all of them, other than like the favicon maybe. Again, when I said that this was a really bare bones website, I really was being honest there, where it's just an HTML, CSS, and JavaScript file. And the JavaScript file only has a couple lines. It pretty much just pulls from the Dev API and then allows me to do that little background thing. And yes, I will put this on YouTube most likely, unless I have technical difficulties. So last week I didn't put it on YouTube because I had so many technical difficulties that it was kind of a dumpster fire. But as long as it goes technically without a huge amount of disruption, then we should be good to go, and I'll put this on YouTube afterwards, like immediately after. Okay, so I just deleted those files on my next rewrite branch, and then I'm going to try to create a next app. So npx create next app, and then I'm going to do a period. Hopefully that will make it so that it will start it in the current directory. That's how it works with create React app, so hopefully that also works. Ooh, okay, it doesn't like the readme. And I can re-download the favicon later. That's the beauty of Git, right? I can always undo this. Cool, and then it says it's installing React, React DOM, and Next. So that's what I need. It's just a warning. Okay, you can ignore that. I thought it failed, but it didn't. It worked. And then it says npm run dev starts the development server, npm run build builds for production, and npm start runs the built app in production mode. So interesting. Okay, so I'm going to be running npm run dev to work through that, but I also want to just open up and see what files were just created by that command, because I'm already straying far from this tutorial, so it happens. I'm going to open up, Pages API, fun. Okay, API route support. What does this mean? And again, for anybody just tuning in, I am brand new to Next.js. This is my first time ever looking at it, other than helping a couple people debug it in the past, but it was mostly just React issues. So I am starting completely fresh right now, reading the documentation as we go. So if I seem clueless, it's because I am. Oh, this is fun. So you could build an API with Next.js, and it'll be treated as an API endpoint instead of a page. Very cool. Okay, that's awesome. That being said, I don't think that I need this, but we'll keep it for now. Yeah, okay, so Next.js, I just got a question about what Next does. So Next does a lot of things. It allows you to both do server-side rendering and static site generation, from what I understand, and you can switch between the two. So let's see. Oh, that's Vercel. That's not Next. It's like a framework on top of React that gives you a ton of bonus features, from what I understand. So it allows you to do SSG and server-side rendering. So SSR would be it's building the page on the server right after the request happens. So you give the request to the server, it builds your page, and then responds with it. So it's almost like back in the day with templating languages, from what I understand. I guess that's not back in the day, but if you used handlebars or something like that on the server, and then use that to build your site. And then static site generation is when your site builds to HTML and CSS instead of being all in React. So essentially we're using React as a development tool rather than what our end user is going to use, which is nice because it's going to allow it to be more performant and not have all the downsides that React does. But it has all the plus sides for developer experience, which for me is super nice. My life is in React a lot of times, I feel like. And you don't have to do the configuration or anything like that, which is nice too. So you don't have to build a Webpack config or anything like that for yourself. It's there. So it seems like there's even more though. There's all sorts of code splitting and bundling, API routing. Ooh, built-in Sass. That's nice. I don't normally use Sass. Are you all big Sass fans? You can leave this in the chat if you want. I am kind of neither here nor there on Sass, and I actually think that sometimes Sass CSS can get a little bit messier because people just like ignore the cascade if they're using it. But it does have some nice tools in it, like the ability to write for loops and stuff. I don't know. Maybe we'll use Sass. Maybe we won't. Ooh, somebody likes Sparkles Peach loves Sass. I definitely did too at some points, and then now I just am not as big on it. But I do think that there are really nice tools for it. That being said, with my site now, these rainbow letters, they're done in CSS, and having the Sass for loop could actually make this much easier, and having variables. So maybe I'll use Sass in this project. Okay, so I'm going to ignore the API thing. I don't think I actually really need that. And then there is this app.js, my app, and then there's component page props. Okay. There's this index.js, so I'm guessing this is probably the homepage. Let me go ahead and run this server. Oh, it doesn't just pop up for you. I'm so used to create React app where it just like opens up in the browser for you. But you actually seem to have to copy and paste it in yourself maybe. Ooh, fun. Welcome to Next.js. Get started by editing pages index.js. That's the file that I'm in right now. That was kind of my guess. I changed this to hi. Okay, that's just the meta title. Okay, so my tab changed up there. And then, welcome to Next.js. If I change that, okay, it hot reloads. Perfect. That's what I needed. Ooh, and then it's using some sort of styled components, it looks like, or CSS modules. What's going on here? I could just look at the package JSON and see what it's using. Doesn't look like it has anything weird going on here, but it does have this home.module.css, so something funky is going on. Something different. Again, feel free to stop me at any time to answer any questions about portfolio sites, like React things, code things, anything. I have lots of opinions on portfolio sites and good practices for them and what you should do there. So let me know if you have any questions about that, because I'm very much here to answer those questions too. Not just Next.js questions, even though that's what I'm trying to learn, but trying to learn it so that I can redo my portfolio site, because what kind of developer would I be if I don't do my portfolio site every couple months? Seems like. That's a joke. You do not have to redo your portfolio site all the time. In fact, it's probably better if you don't. Okay, public is just my favicon and the Vercel logo. So I think it's the little triangle that's on here. Cool. And then we've got these styles, which are the home.module.css. And how is it using those? Okay, it's using styles.main and styles.title. So CSS module. I've used this before, I believe, with Gatsby, but this is not normally how I do CSS. What are CSS modules? Okay. Okay, so it's a project in itself. CSS modules. Okay, cool. Got it. I didn't know what that was built into. Ooh, learn about Next.js in an interactive course with quizzes. That sounds high pressure. But that's cool that they have built out an education model with like quizzes and things. It's pretty cool. Oh, I must have done this at some point. Because the quiz question is answered. Welcome to Next.js. Perfect. Oh, okay, so there's different lessons. Navigate between pages. I'll use the link component. Oh, okay, and it's imported from Next. So instead of being like a React router link, it's from Next. So that's interesting. That's different. Let's see. I don't want to download the starter code. Ooh, fun. Okay. So it says create the post directory under the pages directory, and then you can create a file called firstpost.js, and then you can export it, and then it'll create the URL posts first posts for you. That's so cool. So I don't really want to create like a folder, but I'll create a file, maybe like about.js or something like that. And then if I go to, I can close that out. Localhost 3000, and then go to about. Oop. About page, and that shows up. That's so cool. Okay, so I can make routes just by creating a new file in this pages folder. So I can go to localhost 3000, and that will render this index.js file. Kind of follows that convention of your index being your home page. And then if I go to /about, then now it's my about page. So all that I need to do is create a new file in here, or create a new file in this pages directory, and it'll make it into a page for me. That's so cool. So cool. This app.js, what does this do? So if I change this, what happens? Seemingly nothing. Does not seem like this is doing very much right now. Nope. Okay. Well, we'll come back to this then. This app file. Not sure what's going on with this. Or what it's doing. Must be doing something. What if I put like a each one here? Will it make everything yellow? This is bad, everybody. Don't do this. Oh, okay, so this is my like container component. So I could add a header or something in here and add it onto every single page. So this is my root component. Awesome, figured it out. And I got a really great question in the chat. How complicated do you think projects in a portfolio should be? I think that this so depends on where you're at in your career. So to be really honest, your portfolio matters the most when you're looking for your first job. And then it matters more if you're doing like content creation or looking to do talks or something like that, because it's the place that people land on when they're trying to learn more about you, or they're trying to see if they want to like accept you into a conference or something along those lines. So those are the two places that I think the portfolios are most important when you're looking for your first job or one of your first developer jobs. So maybe like the first couple years of your career. And then especially if you're from an untraditional background in tech, so if you have maybe done a boot camp or you're self-teaching, that's when a portfolio is going to be most important. And so then what should your projects for that portfolio be? So I think that they should be tailored to the job that you're looking at. I really stand by having 2 to 4 strong projects on there. I wouldn't put half finished things or just things that took you like an hour to build on there. I think that there's a place for that. Like you could have an extra page that's like extra projects or something like that. But to be honest, a hiring manager or a recruiter, whoever's looking at that portfolio, most likely is not going to have time to look through 25 different projects. They're probably going to have the time to look through a very few. And so I would put on there projects that you've spent a lot of time on that show your experience and that show off your skills, especially if you're coming from this like untraditional background where you're having to prove your skills to somebody when you're starting out. Like if you're coming from a boot camp, you'll most likely have those projects done because they make you do projects throughout the program. So I would stick to those ones that you created there. And if you have one project from your boot camp that you aren't in love with, like don't put it on there. There's no need to. Having 3 projects instead of 4 is totally enough. But if you're self-teaching, I would spend some time, like a couple weeks, maybe a month, on 1 or 2 really good projects that show off your skill set, what you're most interested in, the thing that you're trying to niche in, if you have something picked out that you want to focus on in your career. So that's a little bit about what I would look for or what I would put on my portfolio for projects. But at my stage in my career, I barely even have projects, like code projects on my portfolio, because that's not what's most important to me and not what I'm trying to do. Like I'm not really trying to show off my development skills in too much depth. I'm focused more on like showing my content and talks and things like that. So having the links and having a landing page for myself on the internet is what's most important to me. And then I got another question about whether they judge on the design of the projects and whether you should spend more time on the design than actually building the application. So that's such a great question. And my answer is that they shouldn't care about it, but they most likely do. And I think that's just human nature, is that if you're looking at a project, you expect it to be visually something that you can navigate and all that. So my advice for somebody who is maybe a back-end developer or somebody who isn't interested in doing a lot of visual things is to use some sort of CSS framework or library that would allow you to make a professional looking application without a ton of work. So something like Material CSS or Tailwind. But Tailwind, I feel like, takes up a little bit more design skills than other ones, but that might just be me and my experience with it. Or use some sort of starter that gives you some design up front. So that's one piece of advice. The other piece of advice would be if you have something that's less, or a career path that's less visual, is to write blog posts about your projects and the things that went into them. So case studies, your planning, what the application does, how to use it. But then again, my very first portfolio, I was just writing C++ and Python code. So I had like screenshots of C++ and Python code in there. And then it linked to a GitHub repo. I think I can actually pull this up. I think I have all my old portfolios displayed. So let me find that. Wait, it's on We Learn Code too. I forget where all my blog posts are. It's tough. So many of them. Okay, so this was my first portfolio that I ever built. And again, I like literally at that point in my career was writing a little bit of, or doing a little tiny bit of web development, but I was mostly just doing like C++ and Python at that point in my career. So I literally took a screenshot of C++ code here, Python code here. I had the Huffman encoding algorithm right here. And you can see information about them if you click the little plus button. I don't think this is the best UX by any means. Again, this was my first ever portfolio, but I think that this general format of having a description of the project, like what it does, because they're not going to necessarily be able to click a link and see it other than seeing the code on GitHub. But less visual projects, that's how I would display them, is have some sort of case study on there or some description of what the application does, have a link to the code, and then I put screenshots of the code there, which I don't know if it necessarily adds anything, but it's on there. So that's what I normally say to like back-end people or people with less visual portfolios. Loving these questions. I have fun with this. Okay, so I've got some understanding of what's going on with Next now. So I have this pages directory and I can just create files in here and that will create a new page for me, which is really awesome. And then I can also go into this app.js file and I can add code that I want to have show up on every single page. So if I want to create a header or footer that shows up on every page of my application, then I would add that in this app file here. And then it's using CSS modules. So I can write CSS in here and then I would import it into my file that I'm trying to use it. And then I would use something like this, class name equals styles.main or styles.title or something along those lines. So it's a little bit different than standard CSS. I'm sure you can use normal CSS as well as, I mean, that looks like what they're doing in this globals.css. Let's see. And that is probably linked in this app.js file. Yeah. So if I wanted to write normal CSS without those CSS modules, I could just import it like this. So CSS modules or normal CSS. I probably will just do normal CSS or Sass, which they said works. What if I just change this to globals.scss? Does everything blow up? Yes. Oh, no, I need to just change my import. Okay, so to use Next.js built-in Sass support, you first need to install Sass. I can do that. That is something that I'm able to do. Probably need to restart my app. Let me do that. Oh, and it worked. Okay, amazing. So I really just had to do npmi Sass, and now I can use Sass. That's pretty easy. I think that they added Sass support to Create React App recently, so you can do that with Create React App. But I know like back in the day, in order to use Sass with Create React App, you had to eject your application. So this is a big improvement on that. So I guess I'm ready to start thinking about what I want to do for the portfolio. And I'm just going to create like a planning.md at the root of this repository and put the different things that I want to have for this portfolio in there. So planning.md. So I think I want to have a home landing page. And that's just going to have my name, this little catchphrase thing, and then my social links. I also need to update my social links because I don't have my Twitch or my YouTube linked anywhere. And those are two of my favorite content types now. I'm having so much fun doing video stuff, even though I was like terrified of it a couple weeks ago. So I'm really glad that I've been having that opportunity since working for AWS. What else do I need to do? So I need to have a home landing page. And then I also want an about page, just with my bio on it. And then I probably should have a speaking page with talks that I've given and things that are in the future. And then the really big thing that I'm missing right now that I want to implement is a content page. And so this would have a list of just all the content that I'm creating, both on my own platforms and on other people's platforms, so that people can just like go to that page and see all the stuff that I've done or am doing. And I would actually ideally love for that to be an API down the road. I think for now I'll just hard code it or make it so that it's a JSON file that I can update a little bit easier than updating HTML right now. And what else do I want? So I want content page, list of everything I'm doing, have done with links. What else do I want? Maybe have it be filterable. Filterable by content type, so that people can look for just podcasts or just blog posts about certain things. I've got a lot just all over the internet, and so I want one place to link to everything else. What else do I need? And then I've got these personal projects, but honestly, political discussion, I don't even have this up anymore. So I shouldn't have that up there. I wrote it literally in college. It was my college thesis. So I have no need for that. I can just link to my GitHub for projects, but at this point, my career path is really more the developer advocate than software engineer. So having code samples on there to me is a little bit less important than my like content, because that's what people, at least I think, care about more than my actual code. So, anybody think of anything that I'm missing? Feel free to put it in the chat or ask any questions as well about building a portfolio or anything along those lines. I know that I do have this half an hour cap on following in order to be in the chat, and I'm sorry about that, but I do think it is the best thing for filtering out like spammers and people who might make like rude comments in the chat. I don't know. If you all have opinions on that and if I should keep that, let me know, because I could take it off there. It scares me. Everything on the internet is scary. The internet's a scary place. Okay. So those are kind of the pages that I'm thinking about. What else should I put on this portfolio? I think that that's a good start. I do still want this to have this little interactive thing, just because it's something that I'm pretty attached to. It was the first thing that I ever had gain attention on the internet. I don't know, I put this on my portfolio 3 years ago, and I tweeted out my portfolio and got like 200 Twitter likes or something like that. And I had under 100 Twitter followers at the time. And it was like, it's happening. This is a huge thing. Like, people are looking at my portfolio. It's so exciting. And it also like got to the top of Hacker News too, which is pretty cool. It's funny how things change, and now I'm like, Hacker News is another scary place on the internet. But this is kind of my thought here, is that I definitely do want this background. It's kind of become a big part of my branding and identity and all that. So that's what I'm going to do, is I'm going to re-implement this. I'm going to have to figure out a way to do it in React, because right now it's just in vanilla JavaScript. But I'm using a library called P5.js. And I think that there's a React wrapper on it, so I can use that. I'm sure that will not be a big lift. So this is my kind of to-do list of sorts for this portfolio. I'm looking at my site, thinking of what other things I should have on there. I think that that's it. Maybe, I don't know. If anybody else has any questions or thoughts or anything like that, please leave them in the chat. I'm fine with that. And also any general portfolio questions, because I know that that's something a lot of people have questions about, and rightfully so. It's the first thing that I look at as an employer when I'm looking at somebody's portfolio. So, or when I'm looking at somebody's like resume or whatever, like your portfolio is the one really customizable thing that says so much about both your identity and your background. And so if you have a portfolio, it's like the first thing that I always look at. But it's also understandable if you don't have one, especially if you've been in the industry for a while, because at some point it doesn't matter too much. But I love seeing them. I love seeing other people's. Like if you have yours, you can put it in the chat and I can look there. Oh, okay. Just got an awesome question. Do you think there's any difference between junior and senior portfolio? For example, it's not common a junior has talks. Yeah. So I think that this is a huge thing to think about. So first off, who is your target audience for your portfolio, and what are they looking for? So in my case, I'm making this portfolio because I want to have a landing place for all of my content on the internet. I want when people Google me to be able to find everything about me in one place. But this is going to look so different from somebody looking for their first developer job or junior developer, because those, you're mostly going to be trying to show off your code or your projects, especially if you're from a boot camp or self-taught. And what else? You're going to have like a very different about section. So I would really think about your target audience and who is going to be looking at it, what they're going to want to see, and what you want to put forward. So mine is going to look radically different than somebody who's starting out in their field, or even somebody who's like a senior software engineer. I'm a developer advocate instead of a software engineer at this point, and so I'm creating a lot of content. I have a lot of time to do that. It's part of my day job. And so that's why my portfolio is going to be focused on these things rather than my code. Like I have these 2 personal projects and I'm going to take them off because they're not things that are super important to me. The other thing is that, I have all my old portfolios online. So let me find those, and I can walk through them really quickly, because we can talk about this prioritization of what I put on my portfolio when I was the junior developer versus what I put on it now. So if I go down to Kick-Ass Portfolio, here we go. So this is my first ever portfolio, and then this is my second portfolio. Do I have my third one launched anywhere? I don't. Let's see. But there's a branch with it. So let's see if I can open up that branch. Okay, so this is one of my first ever portfolio back right when I started off. You could see even like on here, my job title was DevOps engineer at the time. So radically different than what I do as a career now. And I wasn't really a DevOps engineer, but that's a story for another day. But what I like about this portfolio is that I put in highlights the technologies that I was using and that I was learning about at the time. And then I also have my projects. So even though a lot of my projects didn't have visual things with them, I had a quick description and then screenshots of the code and then links to the GitHub. I don't even think these GitHub links probably work anymore. That's okay. And then down at the bottom, I had this contact form. And at that point, I had like GitHub, Twitter. I didn't have any Twitter followers at that time. And then a little email link as well. Oh, I should take that off. It has my personal email on it. But this portfolio shows what maybe a more traditional entry-level developer would have is maybe a couple different projects that they worked on. Mine are all from CS in school when I was studying computer science. So none of them were web development. I didn't really do web development at all at the time. It was all just writing C++ and Python code. I had a quick bio, and that's it. It's just a landing page, showed the things that I wanted to highlight about myself at that point in my career. And then this was my second portfolio. So this I wrote when I believe I was looking for my second software engineering job. So I was at this point where I was not super happy at my first job. And so I thought this one was really fun. I made these little polka dots and you can click on them and they kind of like move everywhere. You can hover over them too. I used a library called Particles.js, and this little tagline came about at that time too. Like, I really like writing code, especially in Python and JavaScript. So that's where that happened. And then it had so I did end up updating this bio after I got my job at GA, but it has a little bit of a blurb about myself. The bio is a little bit longer at this point. There's a contact form again, and this time I have another link to my LinkedIn, and then I have the project page. And this one I want to talk about because I think I made a lot of mistakes with this projects page. So I have a ton of different personal projects that I was working on at the time, and I put them all on here. Like, a lot of these were things that I built in one night or that I was just using for studying, like these coding cheat sheets I made when I was studying for Google, and they weren't really like a project that at that point was useful to anybody else. I guess maybe they are now, but there's that. And then I had like random coding problems that I was solving and putting in there as well. So I have so many projects on here, and I think if a hiring manager or recruiter looked at this, they would be like, where do I start? Like, I don't have time to look at 20 different projects. I have time to look at 2. And so I should have really had 3 or 4 of the projects that I put a ton of time into and put those on there instead of all of these different ones. So I think that that's a mistake, but I do like that I have the different technologies listed on here because it shows that I can build projects in these things, and that would be something that I would recommend to somebody newer off as well. And then at this point I was starting to do talks as well, so I have a couple of them listed on here, but they were pretty much just workshops that I was doing at community events, like volunteering at Django Girls and things like that. Cool. And then another question, at what point can you stop making a portfolio? Like, really when you want to. So when you feel like you're at a point in your career where finding a next job is not going to be the most difficult thing in the world, like maybe when you have a lot of recruiters reaching out to you rather than it being the other way around. There are tons of developers out there who don't have portfolios, especially those who are later on in their career, went through like CS programs or something like that. Again, I think it's most important for people who are highly involved in the community and want some sort of landing page for people to come to on the internet. And then the other side of things would be for people looking for their first job. So the people who are trying to show their projects and using those instead of having maybe software engineering jobs or developer jobs on their portfolio. Ooh, another good question about the GitHub README features as a portfolio. I love those. They're so cool. I really should make those. I should prioritize making one. I think having a portfolio site is so unique though, because you can be so creative with it and feature whatever you want to feature in whatever format you want. And I think that the README, you can do a lot with it, but it's still more flexible to have your own portfolio site and kind of own that SEO and all that, or search engine optimization, and have your own domain and all that. So I think that that's a valid path and something that's quick and definitely valid, especially if you're maybe not a front-end developer, but I still think there's a lot of value in having your own site as well. Oh, question about how the Google interview went. Not well. That's probably I think that's the only interview in my career that I maybe didn't pass, which, okay, that sounds kind of a lot. I haven't interviewed a lot at all. I've only done like maybe 5 or 6 different interviews in my career, or 5 or 6 interview processes in my career, and that's the only one that went really poorly. But I was also really, really early on in my development career, and they had reached out to me because I was doing the Code Jam competitions, and it was a really interesting process. I learned so much from it. It made me go back and learn like data structures and algorithms for real and all that. So I'm actually really, really, really grateful that I did it, even though I bombed the interview and it was a little bit anxiety producing. But I think it was a good process and something that really challenged me. So I think the learning from that would be, even if something feels a little bit out of your reach, like do it, because you'll still learn a lot from it. Do you consider put all your projects, organize them, or 4 or 5 projects enough? I would really prioritize only having like 2 to 4 projects on your portfolio that you're really proud of. Like, you could have another page if you want, like listing of all projects, but have 4, maybe 2 to 4 that are really featured on there that you are most proud of, that most show off your skills, because nobody has time to look through 20 different projects. Yeah, interviewing for any role usually isn't fun. This is very true. Very much agree with that. But I think that it's good to get used to it. And that's actually something that I a little bit regret from early on in my career, is that I really wish that I had done more interviews so that I knew my market worth a little bit more. Because I think it would have been helpful to have like different offers at different stages and learn how much I could get at different companies. So I think that that's one big thing. But then another big piece of it too is that I really wish that I had more practice with it and that it made me less nervous, because the more you interview, the more you get used to it and the more you see those different processes and work with different code challenges and different formats for those interviews, and then you become less and less nervous for them, hopefully, and you at least are used to the process and can kind of figure out what to study to do well in them. So I kind of regret that I haven't done a lot of interviewing, and it's something that if I could go back in time, I would tell myself to interview more and put yourself out there a little bit more. Yeah, I hear that about COVID ruining job searches. I can't imagine job searching for real right now. Like, it just sounds like an absolute nightmare. I'm so sorry for anybody in that situation right now. That's so tough. The job market is just brutal. Okay, awesome. So those are my old portfolios. Let me go back to working on my new one. I'm still totally here for any questions that you may have. Oh, and I have my view one too. Let me see if this runs. This is a bunch of years old. No, it doesn't work. Nuxt start. Wait, did I really write this in Nuxt? Let me see. I don't don't remember writing this in Next. That's so interesting. But apparently I did. Oh, I like that question too. So what are the most important sections in a portfolio? And I think that you nailed them. So about me, projects, and contact. So about me is a little bit of blurb about what you're interested in, maybe even your interests outside of work, so that you can become a little bit more personal to whoever's looking at it. Then where can they find you elsewhere on the internet? So it should be your kind of, I think of it almost like a wheel. Like your portfolio is the middle of the wheel, and then your other things are like the spokes coming off of it. So you can have links to your social media, your GitHub, to your email. And then having some sort of contact section is great too. If you want more people to contact you, having a contact form is great. So if that's something that you're encouraging, you want people to come to your website and contact you, like have a contact form, that will work great. But if you're at a point where too many people would contact you, I personally do not have a contact form on anything because I have too many communications as is. And I love talking to people, but it gets really stressful. Okay, let me see if this finally works. Oh, and what's my drink? I am a New England girl through and through. This is Dunkin' Donuts iced coffee. It's what I drink all the time, pretty much. Oh my goodness. I should really just look at the package JSON and see the commands. npm run dev, that's the command. Whoops. Whoa. Okay, this is not the correct thing at all. That's okay. But essentially this version of the portfolio that I was trying to get up, it had a landing page with my name in big letters and the little bio, and that's it. So that's what I'm trying to go back to, is having some sort of landing page. Yeah. This was not what I thought it was. It's probably the new view. That's probably what I was trying to get, but that's okay. Okay, so now I have this next rewrite branch. I'm back to that. And let's see this one's commands. npm run dev. Okay, cool. And another question about whether the email or social links are better than contact form. So I personally think if you want people to contact you, having a contact form is really helpful. I used Formspree. Let me look at this. Okay, so I will put this link in here, but this is what I used at the time to make a contact form. So supercharge your forms, use your own HTML, JavaScript, CSS, and then submit to our API and we'll handle the rest. It's so simple, and it'll just email you your responses. I'm pretty sure it's free, or at least it was definitely free back in the day. You can also like embed a Google form on your page. That would be another really, really easy way of doing it. I know that Netlify has forms as well that you can use. Those are a couple different options for making a contact form without a lot of work or your own personal code. I would recommend that if you're trying to get responses, because when you link your email, it normally is like the mail to email link, and that's just so hard. It, at least on my computer, always pops up in the wrong client and is just not fun to navigate. So I would recommend a contact form if you are looking for people to contact you. I am not necessarily looking for people to reach out too often, so I bury mine a little bit more now. But if you are really interested in having people reach out, if you're like looking for your first dev job or something like that, I would have that contact form. It makes it just a little bit less, or makes it so that there's less friction. Wait. npm run dev is saying that next is not found. Wait, what was the command that I was running before then? Let me see. I'm getting all turned around here. Saying next command not found. How was this working 2 minutes ago? I don't understand. Another recommendation for the Netlify forums. They're pretty simple, and you could set up a app too if you wanted to. If you wanted to write PHP, you could definitely do that too if you wanted to. Let me see. I probably should not have just done like npm next. That was probably not smart. That's okay. It worked. Okay, now I've got my next app, and I want to build out all these pages. So the index.js I already have. I have the about.js already created as well. I want speaking. And content.js. What are the other ones that I wanted? Yeah, that's it. Okay. Cool. So now I've got those pages. And now and just a hot tip, if anybody writes React, I so strongly recommend the extension ES7 React Redux GraphQL snippets. Oh my goodness, lifesaver. That's what I was doing there, was just typing RFC and it typed all this code for me. Makes my life so much easier because I cannot actually type. It's a problem. Typos everywhere. Yeah, so it's like React ES7, something like that. If you search that in VS Code, they should pop up. Cool. So now I've got my pages. Let me make sure that they all worked, but I think that they did. Well, I guess I got a portfolio site now. I guess I don't have to do any more. Just kidding. Let me delete this little Nux thing that just popped up. Don't need that. No need for that. Okay. So this home page. I should probably weed this down as my first step. What should I have as the title? Probably just I like that. I like doing the little dots for some reason in the title. I'm not sure why, but I just like it. Yeah, I think there are a couple other people in the chat who like doing the GitHub README profiles. I think that they're great. I think it's a great first step for having a portfolio. You can link everything out from there. I would still recommend making a portfolio site, but I think the GitHub ones are great too. Okay, so div class name styles container, styles main, styles title. I should probably just wipe all this. This is kind of cool how you can do this head tag though. If anybody's ever used Gatsby, like you normally use Helmet to do this, but this head is so nice. Just insert these tags up in the head instead of putting them in the body. So if we inspect this page, you can see that my title, Ali Spittel Portfolio, got inserted right into the head tag. Like, this is so nice. I might have to rewrite We Learn code too. I should not rewrite everything all the time, but I kind of want to. This is so cool. It's like a much simplified version of something like Gatsby. So beautiful. Oh, what's the dot character? I have no idea what it's called, but I'm on a Mac, I do Command Control space. That brings up this little emoji keyboard, and then you can like search for things. So I just did dot and did that, but I have no idea what it's actually called. I just like putting them in my titles for some reason. I think it looks good. That's interesting that they link to the favicon here too. Like normally you can just put your favicon in the root of the project and it'll just load it automatically. So it's interesting that they're doing that here. But I'll have to link in my custom favicon later. Let's see. What is this? Oh, very cool. Okay, so it's like a development thing, pre-rendered page. So interesting. Okay, very cool. Next.js, blowing my mind. This is an amazing tool. Wait. Let me see. How do I do this now? It's been a while. Okay, so I have this each one with class rainbow letters, and then I have spans for each one of the letters, and then I have a span big space in order to make the space in between Ali and Spittel a little bit longer, and then I have each letter in a span as well. I really, for accessibility, should make this into probably an image, but I want to add an animation to it on hover. So we'll see. Let's see. For now, we'll implement it this way. I'm trying to count how many letters are in my name. That's what just took me a second there. And if anybody has any questions on the development stuff that I'm doing too, please let me know. I'm so here to answer those questions too. So portfolio questions or what I'm doing code-wise questions, I am totally here for both. Actually, I think I want this to be a div because I think that I want to put these on different lines. Oh my goodness, these error messages are so elegant. Like, look, when I went back to this little thing pops up and it's like expected corresponding JSX close tag. In general, I'm such a BR tag hater, but in this case, I think it's the semantic element to use. Oh, question about getting Emmet to work in JSX. So what you can do is if you go to your settings and you go search Emmet, all that you need to do is in the include languages, you can do JavaScript, JavaScript React, and that'll make it so that you can use Emmet in React files. And then Vue, you can do HTML too. So fun fact if you want to use Emmet for Vue. And then it also says to import the link tag from Next, and that will allow you to link from page to page. Oh, wait. Oop. Ooh, okay. So instead of the 2, it's the href. That's what this error message is saying here. I'm so used to React Router where you use 2 as the attribute within link, but within Next, it's actually href. So I need to have an href here. And then this would take me to the about page. So nice. That's funny though. That href versus the 2 is going to be a big adjustment for me. Oh, okay. So I got a question about where I get these compilation errors, and this is coming from Next.js. So I'm using Next.js right now to build this application, and so all those error messages are coming from that. They're React errors, I believe, but Next is giving really pretty ones like that. Oh my goodness. I like how VS Code gives me this like little error, like your name is spelled wrong. I promise it's spelled correctly, VS Code. Maybe I can add it to my definitions. Let's see. Add word to user dictionary. There we go. Now I'm not getting an error about my name. Okay, so now I've got these little links so I can go to the About page, the Content page, and the Speaking page. That's cute. And then I probably want to import the little font awesome icons that I'm using. So I also want to do this little tagline here, so that. Ooh, I did them as H2s. Okay, cool. Let's see. Oh, okay, gorgeous. What a beautiful website. Fantastic. I'll make this into a section too. Ooh, that's a great question. So what would be the little details about a portfolio to make it stand out other than a personal domain, dark mode, animations, typography, life projects, etc.? Yeah, I think that it's perfectly valid to have really simple design on there. In fact, like mine is really simple in a lot of ways. I know I have the Easter egg there, but for the most part, this is just dark gray text on a white background and a really simple layout. Like I don't think a portfolio itself has to be really fancy. That being said, some of my favorite portfolios are the kind of fancy ones. So let's see. I think some of these may be down at this point, but like Ben Halpern from Dev, his portfolio is so much fun. Just it's so chaotic, but it really speaks to him and it's really funny and shows his personality. So I think that that's great. But I think in general, unless you're a designer, simple is better than complex. This one is so much fun too. So Timo Becker is an illustrator, and so you can make these little characters on here and it fills out to be a full illustration. The math behind this amazes me. Like think about how many different permutations they had to do in order to make this site work. There's so many great ones. Oh, Josh Komos. Let's see. Oh, this is a really great one too. I love the little person in the animations, dark mode, light mode. This is everything built into it. Yeah, there's so many amazing ones out there. I used to love this one, but it seems like it's down. The Julia's. Okay, I love ones like this too that are just really simple, well designed. Bio little logos, like so much went into this. You can tell, even though it's just a simple site. And I really do think that like simple is better than complex in a lot of ways with these. I don't necessarily think that you need it to be the wildest site in the world, but if you have ideas for adding some sort of interaction to make it really fun, or you've been really focusing on some sort of interactivity library or something like that, I think adding those things is awesome, but not necessarily 100% needed. I just think that the portfolio should be your landing page, the place where people can find out more about you. More awesome ones. Let's see, Jason AF. Oh, Jason's. It's so cute. And all the little noises are so great too. Different bio links. There's so many different things that you can do. But even if yours isn't one like this, even if it's a lot simpler, that's totally valid as well. They don't have to be anything super fancy by any means. Again, mine is like black and white for the most part. And look how gorgeous my current portfolio is. So beautiful. Yeah, I love that, Dominic. The theme picker on their homepage so that there's customizable. You can make it customized. Words are so difficult. And then Gatsby and 11T design chops. Yeah, that's a good point. Everything for a while for me was built out in Gatsby, and I think Gatsby is great in a lot of ways, but I also have had some not fun issues with it. And so I feel like I've just heard such glowing things about Next, and that's why I'm going in that direction. 11T, people just glow about. They just rave about 11T, and I really like a lot of the ideas behind it. But for me, their documentation is not my favorite. So that's my one pain point with 11T. But so many great options. And honestly, again, mine right now is an HTML page, like 11 lines of JavaScript and CSS. So you do not need anything fancy for a portfolio by any means. You can make it so simple. My only issue is that it's just takes too long to update right now. Is that I have to rewrite the HTML every time that I want to add something to it, and it's painful. So that's the only reason why I'm redoing this right now. And have I done any WebGL? I don't think I have. If I have, it's a long time ago. But yeah, I think the creative portfolios are so much fun, but I'm also a big proponent of just keep it simple unless you have a design background or you have fun building these things. I have fun building these things, which is why mine are a little different. I love this. So many people are jumping on this GitHub profile bandwagon, and again, I've said this a couple times, but I think that they're amazing. I think that they're so great, but I think there's a lot of validity in owning your platform and having your own domain as well. So that's my thought there. But I think that they're great. I think that they're a really cool tool. Just a little bit less customizable. But I need to make one too. Definitely need to do that. That's something that I need to prioritize. Okay. So we've got this. My name, I really like writing code, especially in Python and JavaScript. Got my about, content, and speaking. Okay, so I only have 37 minutes left. I do have to leave at 4 my time. But what do you all want me to focus on for the next little bit? I think I want to get this deployed because I want to learn what that process is like. That's something that I am curious about myself. But for the rest of it, would you rather I focus on styling or building out pages or just keep answering questions or what? Anybody? No, nobody cares. Build all the things. I wish. Okay, is there a specific font awesome for Next, or do I just use font awesome React? How to use Font Awesome in Next.js. This makes me think that it's just the React Font Awesome. Okay, cool. So I just get to use the React Font Awesome. Anybody have like a good alternative to Font Awesome? I feel like I use it for everything just because they have everything pretty much. Like they have all the social icons that I need, including Dev. That's an important one. But anybody have any like other alternative that they enjoy doing? Yeah, Font Awesome is great. This is true. I think I'm probably stuck with it. With a noun project. Let's see those. Free icons and stock photos. Ooh. Why do I look for LinkedIn? Oh, they do have like LinkedIn ones and things too. Are these the official ones? This looks like a little not like LinkedIn. Let's see. Yeah, these look like they're a little different, but they are really cool. They're like very stylized. Very cute. I like. What else? Okay, so I should install Font Awesome. So, okay, anybody else think it's funny that all these sites have -- save still on their npm-i when it's been like years since you've needed the -- save? Something that like cracks me up a little bit, but I don't know if it should. Like the -- save, a little irrelevant. Okay, that's a good input of what I should build. So should try fetching the blog post dynamically from Dev.to. So I'm actually going to move away from doing that because I want to use the blog posts on my own personal site. I could potentially pull from the RSS feed that I have on there, but I'm going to be pulling my content from a lot of different places. So I think I'm going to just build my own API, to be honest. I think that that's eventually the direction that I'm going to head in. But right now, my site is building from Dev. It's pulling those pieces from Dev, and I can show you the code for that if it's helpful. Let's see. Okay, so I am making a GET request to get my Dev.to API articles. And then you can do like your username here. And then with those articles, I'm looping through them, sorting them by reaction count. So that's a little bit funky. And I'm getting the top 10, I believe, something like that. Then I'm flipping them in order. I feel like I should have just flipped the sort algorithm and I would have been fine, but I always look back at old code and I'm like, why was I doing that? I could have just changed the sort order and that would have worked, but it is what it is. And then for each one, I'm creating an element with, it's an A tag with a link to that article, adding a title on there, and then adding color to them. So that's really all that I am doing to do that. I can like piece this code into the chat too. Does that help at all? No, I have to do it. Guessed. So this is what that code looks like. If anybody wants to pull their articles down from Dev, this is how I do it, at least. And their API doesn't need like authentication or anything like that. So it is there. But I'm going to actually move off from doing that. I'm just going to be building out my content itself. I'm probably just going to create a JSON file and do it that way. It'll be the easiest for me to update, I believe. Okay, so I just installed the Font Awesome SVG. And then I need to do the React Font Awesome, I believe. I need to do, and then there's also the brand ones too. These are the ones that I really need. Oh my goodness, so many different things that you need to install just to get icons. Like, they're just damn icons. Should not be this much work. Okay. So now I have all those font awesome things. I think it's really funny that their company is called Fort Awesome and then the product is called Font Awesome. For some reason that just is like kind of funny to me. So now I need to import those. How do I use this? I should have these things like memorized at this point, but I don't. Wait, I'm probably importing the wrong thing. Let's see. They have a list of all of them. I don't want instructions. I just want a list of all the icons. Now you all get to see how like chaotic my development process actually is. So just want a list of the icons. Icons. Twitter. Okay, Twitter. Is it Fab Twitter? Wait, was I right the whole entire time? I just wasn't using it? Oh my goodness. The worst. Oh, and I need to import the actual icon thing too. Because these are not React components. They are instead font awesome icons. Icon equals FA Twitter. Do you work? Please work. It works. Not gorgeous, not beautiful yet, but it exists. I have this on my page now. Fabulous. I need Dev.to. FA Dev. So, oh my goodness. Okay. I kept thinking something on my computer was doing that little thing, but it just gives me that little triangle thing when it's building, it looks like. That was out of the corner of my eye, very much bothering me. Okay, so now I've got my Twitter icon on the page, my dev icon on the page. I need Twitch, YouTube. Big recommendation to anybody starting out with content creation, get your same username everywhere, because then you don't have to remember all of them. You can just do Spittel everywhere or whatever your username is. This is one of my big pain points right now, is that apparently my username was taken on YouTube, so now it's alispit.tel. So whoever has Spittel on YouTube, I'm not happy with you. That's my name. That's okay. I'm not actually mad, but I just have a different name on there. Typing is hard. So now I've got those icons on there. What else do I need? Oh, GitHub. GitHub's an important one. Okay. So that's got social links. Oh, Instagram. I always forget about Instagram. Instagram is the worst. I mean, it's fun, but it's just a lot. Okay, so I got those links on there. I don't really want to do CSS right now. I feel like that's going to go over. So I really want to try deploying this and see how that goes, because that's the next step of the process. I figured out how to make pages. Again, the way to make new pages in Next is literally just create a new file in this pages folder. So nice. Amazing. And you can link to them by using this link tag here. And I'm still totally here to answer portfolio questions too. So if anybody has those, we're kind of getting to the end here. But let me try this out. So I need to push this to GitHub. Is anybody using the GitHub command line? I'm loving it. For making like pull requests and new repos and stuff. You can do like GHPR, I think, and that will allow you to make a pull request, or GH new to make a new repo. So nice. So nice. Absolutely loving it. Okay. So I'm going to deploy this on AWS. So I'm going to go to the AWS console. Nope, this is the wrong thing. Have to log in. Mine's gonna look a little different if anybody else is on AWS. Mine's a little different because I'm an employee. So I'm gonna go to AWS Amplify. And I'm gonna go connect app. I'm just going to do a separate deployment. I do have my normal portfolio site set up here. Oh, great. It has issues with my domain right now. So I guess I have to work on that. But I'm going to connect app here. I'm going to go GitHub. Working with domain name things is like my nightmare as a developer. It's not what I am best at. It very much intimidates me. So I have Spittel, GitHub IO. This is the repo that I want to do. And then what branch do I want to do? I want to do my next rewrite. npm run build, artifacts base directory.next. This all looks right. I'm just going to change the app name. So it looks like all this was correct here, so I don't need to change anything there. Then I can do save and deploy. The Amplify console allows you to deploy things with just like a couple clicks on AWS, which is super nice. And it'll take a little bit to build And hopefully it does build. I hope. Okay, so provision's done. Build. Anybody have any portfolio questions while we're waiting for this to deploy? Cool. So question about, oh no, totally fine that it's not a portfolio question. It's a good one. So Amplify is like similar to Netlify and the like. Yeah, it's kind of like that where you can do like a couple click deploy rather than having to write like build scripts or anything like that, or build it locally and then push it or anything like that. So yes, it's a really great tool. As far as pricing goes, so you get a free tier for the first year when you create your AWS account. And then the pricing is like this. So Amplify console pricing. Let's see. This is the pricing once you're done with the free tier. So it's pretty affordable. It's like a cent per build minute. And there's some examples too of different use cases as well. So that's what that looks like. And yeah, people talking about 30 minutes to see things. Sorry about that. I have it set up so that not anybody can comment. Just I'm a little afraid of trolls or whatever. Okay, so it says that it's built and deployed. Let's fingers crossed that it is correctly. Oh no, okay. So this is not what we want. What did I do wrong? Okay, let me see if I build this locally, what's generated. So do an ls npm run build. Okay, so this created all these different pages. What folder did they create them in? ls public .next. What is this .next? Static chunks. Nope, that's not where it is. Pages. Cache server. Build ID. Where did it go? This is so strange. I ran that build script. And then ooh, is it the server pages maybe? Is this the build site? So interesting. Hello.js. Okay, I don't need that. App, I've got the about content index speaking. Okay, so this is probably what I want to have deployed, is this next server pages. I'm gonna guess at least. Let me see. You know, I can just Google these things too instead of making it hard for myself. But ooh, okay. Next export allows you to export your app to static HTML. Okay, that's what I actually want. This is what I want. I want my page to just be HTML. So why does this next command keep disappearing? Let me put this in here. Should be the build directory, but the build directory has like weird stuff in it. But it doesn't really. Okay, so then we've got out. And the out is probably one I wanted to actually deploy, right? Cool. This looks like what I need. Cool. So I'm gonna changing that build command. And then I also need to change the directory that I output in here. So build settings, instead of the base directory set to .next, I need it to be set to that out. I think this was my fault. Because I'm trying to just totally freewheel this instead of reading too in depth on anything. I'm just trying things out. Now it's building. Anybody else have like a last portfolio question or two before the end of this? Another question is Amplify like the Amazon version of Firebase? It's similar, yeah. Lots of tooling for making AWS a lot simpler. Let's see. I'm going to try to trigger another redeploy. For those of you who tuned in later, this is my first time like ever touching Next.js. So again, if it feels like I have no idea what I'm doing, that is correct. I am trying to teach myself this while also teaching myself how to stream and talking to people. Okay. So yeah, the question about whether it makes a difference having a portfolio page for general developers or just freelancers. So I think that it makes a huge difference for a couple different people. So the first one is somebody who's looking for their first developer job, especially if they're not coming from a CS degree. So if they're coming from boot camp or self-taught background where they're going to have to show off their projects, it's going to be really important to have that portfolio to show off those projects. And this is something that we like really emphasized when I was teaching at a boot camp, is that they are really important for that. But then the other piece of the puzzle is that when you move further on in your career as well, so if you are freelancing, I think that it's a great thing to have so that you can show prospective employers that. But also if you are doing like speaking or content creation or anything like that, having a landing page on the web where people can find you, I think is super helpful as well. And how much does having an active presence on social media, GitHub, and the like affect your portfolio? Which one would you expand on first? So I think having a portfolio is going to be the really key thing if you are job hunting, because it's going to have, it's kind of like the center of the wheel. I think I said this analogy earlier, but it's like the very beginning of everything. Like it links to everything else. It'll link to your blog post, it'll link to your social links, all that. There we go. It finally deployed. It worked. I finally figured it out. I was being a little ridiculous before. And look, all the routing works too. This is amazing. Okay. So I just had the wrong build directory originally. I did like .next instead of out. So now it works. I was being ridiculous. Okay. So back to the question of how much does having an active presence on social media help? So again, I think having a portfolio first is the most important thing, because it's the thing that you can show future employers. And this depends on your goals. So if your goal is to get a first developer job, then I think the portfolio is the most important. But if your goal is to create content or to get involved with the developer community, in that case, potentially it would be more important to do social media or content creation or write posts on Dev or something like that, so you're not having to build your own platform up front. So it really depends on your goals, but I think having a portfolio is something that you can write it in an afternoon or an evening. Just get something up there and then it can link out to everything else. I told this story earlier, but this is the first thing that I ever got attention for on the internet. I had like less than 100 Twitter followers, and this is actually what got me to over 100 Twitter followers, was having my portfolio and just like tweeting it out during Dev Discuss one night. Dev.to does a Twitter chat once a week. I think it's like Tuesday nights or Wednesday nights. And you can tune into those, and I like shared my portfolio during it, and it got like a couple hundred likes on Twitter, and it was the first thing that I ever showed off to people or had gained any traction on social media. So that's kind of my little fun story, is that I don't think these things are exclusive. And then the other question, do you think it's good to have your technical writings on your portfolio instead of using existing blogging platforms only? This is a great question, and something that I definitely struggle with as well. So my personal philosophy is, if you are starting off writing, do not build your own blogging platform, because it's going to take you a really long time to write something out that you're really happy with and really proud of, unless you're just using like a blogging starter or something like that. Then in that case, like that's fine. But if you are wanting to build out your own platform, I would wait until you've built up content first. So post on something like Dev.to or Medium or Free Code Camp, something along those lines, so that you know that you like writing first. And then from there, you can build your platform. yourself, your own blog site, and keep up that consistency. But the thing that you can also do there is have all your dev posts link out to your blog, and there's something called a canonical URL that you can use so that Google doesn't think that there's duplicate content, and you can give all your SEO to your own personal site. So I'd highly recommend doing that. And as far as whether you should have a separate blogging site versus a blog on your portfolio, that's another really great question. I have decided to separately brand my portfolio and my blog. And the reason for that is because my blog is like really geared towards a certain audience, like beginner developers. And then I personally have like wider interests than that. And so I have kind of chosen to make them two separate things, if that makes sense. And it also allows my blog itself to be a little bit more broad. So if I wanted to go further with it someday, if I wanted to make it into a company and hire people or something along those lines, like not saying that's even something that I'm really interested in doing, but in theory, it's a little bit more general to have my blog on a different domain than my portfolio. I do have a blog built onto my portfolio, but it's just for like little blurb posts. That being said, if you're trying to build up your brand and you want to bring people to your portfolio as much as possible, so you're a freelancer or something along those lines where you really want as much traffic as possible on that portfolio, then I would recommend having your blog on there. Hopefully that answered that question there. I know I probably went a little bit off the rails with that, a little too in depth, but hopefully that was helpful. Cool. So again, what I did today in this stream was I got started with Next.js. It was my first time ever using it. I went through the docs a little bit and then just played around and tried changing some code to potentially rewrite my portfolio site, because right now it's not very maintainable because it's just written in HTML. So whenever I want to update it, I have to rewrite the HTML. So if I want to add like a new blog post or something like that, it gets a little clunky. So I'm trying to rebuild it so that I can have like dynamic content a little bit easier. So I'm using Next.js for that because it has static site generation and server-side rendering. Played around with that a little bit, made some pages, and then deployed it to AWS Amplify. And throughout, I've been answering tons of different questions about portfolios as they've come in. So this will definitely go up on YouTube, and the stream will stay live on Twitch, I believe, as well. If anybody has any feedback as far as video content or whatever I could do to make these streams better, I would love that via my DMs on Twitter, or you can just leave them in the chat here because I'm still so new to this. Also, if anybody's tuned into my last couple streams versus this one, I would love feedback for which one you like more. Like if you like the more workshop format where I'm teaching something, or if you like me just working on code. I would love to hear different perspectives there on what I should keep doing. But otherwise, this was a lot of fun, and see you next week at the same time, 2 p.m. Central. This was fun. Bye.